The sky above the forest of Zara turned dark as a bright light fell from the sky. The ground shook. Trees bent. Birds flew away in fear. It was not lightning. It was something else. Something unknown. In a small village near the forest, a young alien girl named Lena watched the sky with wide eyes. She had soft green skin, large blue eyes, and smooth silver hair. Like all Valari, she was peaceful and gentle. But she was also curious more than others in her village. She had never seen a firelight fall from the stars. No one had. Something has fallen into the dark forest, she told her friend. I want to see it. Her friend shook his head. It is not safe. The Drekker lives there. You know the rule. Do not go near its land. The Drekker, a giant beast with sharp teeth and dark scales, was the most feared creature on the planet. It ruled the forest. Even hunters stayed far away. People said it could smell fear and crush trees with its claws. It was the reason why the forest was always silent. But Lena could not stop thinking about the light from the sky. What if it was something important? What if someone was hurt? Her heart beat fast with both fear and excitement. That night, while the village slept, Lena walked alone into the forest. The trees were tall and strange sounds came from deep inside. She moved quietly, her feet light on the soft moss. The air was cold. The wind whispered through the leaves. But Lena did not turn back. After walking for a long time, she reached a small clearing. There, in the center, was a strange object. It was round and made of shiny metal. Smoke came from its side. It was not a rock. It was not from Ze or Ra. It was a ship. Then she heard a sound, soft and slow footsteps. Her eyes widened as a figure stepped out of the ship. It was not Avalari. It was tall and thin, with brown skin and black hair. He had eyes like her, but smaller ears and no tail. He looked around, confused but not afraid. He wore clothes made of strange cloth and held a small pack on his back. Lena stayed hidden behind a tree, watching him. Her heart raced. She had only read about humans in old stories. Some said they were strong, others said they were wild. But this one looked calm, even gentle. He looked around the trees, then sat on a rock, pulling out something from his bag. It was food. He ate slowly, carefully looking at the forest. He didn't know the danger that was near. Lena took a step back. A branch snapped under her foot. The human turned quickly and saw her. For a moment, they both stared at each other. Lena didn't move. Her body tensed. The human didn't move either. Then slowly, he raised one hand. Not in fear, not in anger, just a hello. Lena hesitated, then raised her hand too. He smiled. That one smile made her relax. Maybe he was not dangerous. Maybe he was just lost. She stepped into the clearing. Still keeping distance, the human stood up slowly, showing that he meant no harm. He pointed to himself. Ravi, he said. Lena tilted her head. Ravi, he repeated, placing his hand on his chest. She understood. It was his name, Lena. She replied softly, pointing to herself. Ravi smiled again. They stood there, under the stars. Two beings from different worlds. They did not speak the same words, but somehow they understood each other. Then Lena remembered the Drekker. It hunted in this part of the forest, and the smell of smoke and fire could draw it here. She quickly pulled out a stick and drew the shape of the Drekker on the ground. Big body, claws, teeth. She pointed to the forest and made a growling sound. Ravi watched carefully. He seemed to understand, but instead of fear, he looked curious. He pointed in the same direction, asking her to take him there. Lena's eyes went wide. No, she said firmly. She waved her hands. To dangerous. You come with me. We go. Back, but Ravi didn't listen. He looked toward the trees and took a few steps forward. Lena grabbed his arm. No, it will kill you. Ravi looked at her hand, then into her eyes. He smiled again, a calm smile. Then he said one word, please. Lena felt torn. She couldn't leave him alone, but she couldn't take him to the Drekker either. The village would never forgive her if she did. She let go of his arm. Stay here, she said. But when she turned around to leave, She heard his footsteps behind her. He was already walking deeper into the forest. Lena followed him from a distance, hiding behind trees. Ravi walked slowly, looking around with interest. He touched the bark of trees, smelled flowers, listened to the songs of flying insects. And something strange happened. The animals around him did not run. Usually, when someone walked through the forest, creatures flew away or hissed in warning. But near Ravi, they stayed calm. A bird even landed on a branch above him and chirped softly. Lena blinked. She had never seen that before. Could he really connect with the wild? The night grew darker. A sound of thunder rolled through the sky. But it was not thunder. It was a roar. Lena froze. The ground shook under her feet. She knew that sound. Every Villari knew it. The Drekker was near, and Ravi was walking straight into its path. The deep roar shook the air again. It came from beyond the trees, louder than before. Birds flew away in panic. The leaves above swayed as if the forest itself was afraid. Lena stood still, her breath caught in her throat. She knew that sound. Well, the Drekker was not far. It was awake, and it had noticed something new in its land. Ravi didn't seem afraid. He looked in the direction of the sound with wide eyes, curious and calm. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He just stood there, listening. Lena ran to him, pulling his arm. "We have to go," she said quickly, though she knew he didn't understand her words. She pointed toward the village, then drew the same image again, the sharp claws, the long tail, the teeth. "Drekker," she said clearly. Ravi looked at her drawing and then looked toward the forest again. He didn't look scared. He looked thoughtful. He made a quiet sound, HMM, then gently touched the line she had drawn on the ground. He shook his head softly. "Not monster," he said slowly, using words Lena didn't know, but she could guess the meaning. Lena's eyes narrowed. He didn't believe the Drekker was dangerous. She pointed at the drawing again and made a loud growling noise. "It eats," she said, making a biting motion with her hands. "It hunts." Ravi looked at her and slowly sat down on a rock. He opened his bag and took out a small device. It glowed with light. A picture appeared. It was of a big animal from another world, something like a giant cat, with sharp eyes and a long tail. Beside it, in the picture, stood a human girl, smiling and holding the creature's face. Lena stared at it. "This friend?" she asked softly. Ravi nodded. He pointed to the Drekker's direction and then to the animal in the picture. "Same," he said, then pointed to himself. "I want to see." Lena shook her head quickly. "You don't understand. Drekker is not like your animal. It does not want friends." Ravi stood up. He looked into Lena's eyes and said one word, "Trust." Lena didn't know what to say. She wanted to trust him. He was kind. He smiled often. He moved like he respected the land. The animals near him did not fear him. Even the trees seemed calmer when he passed. But this was different. This was the Drekker. She pointed again toward the village. "Come, please." Ravi looked back at the trees. Then, with a quiet sigh, he nodded. He began walking with her. Lena felt a small relief in her chest. Maybe he was listening now. But that night, as the stars covered the sky, Ravi disappeared. Lena woke early, just before sunrise. The village was still sleeping. She looked around. Ravi was not in the small shelter they gave him. His pack was gone. So was his walking stick. She ran toward the forest. The sun was low, and the light passed through the trees in thin golden lines. The forest felt quiet to quiet. Lena moved quickly but carefully. She followed broken leaves and light footprints on the ground. She knew he had come this way. She followed the trail for a long time, deeper than before. Then she saw him. Ravi was walking slowly through the tall trees. He stopped now and then, touching tree trunks, smelling flowers, and writing something in a small book. He looked happy. Lena stayed hidden for a moment. She wanted to be angry. He had not listened. He had come back to danger. But she couldn't yell at him. She didn't know how to tell him everything she felt. She stepped out into the open. Ravi turned and smiled when he saw her. "You came," he said softly. She crossed her arms. "You should not be here." He tilted his head. You followed me, yes? She said, because I care. He looked touched. He walked closer, then pointed to a line of trees. Drecker goes this way, he said slowly. Lena's eyes widened. You saw its path. Ravi nodded. Big footprints, claw marks. I want to see it. I won't hurt it. Lena stepped forward. You still want to go? He looked at her with calm eyes. Yes. Lena closed her eyes for a moment. Then she said, then I go with you. Ravi smiled again. Thank you. They walked together, deeper into the wildest part of the forest. The air was thick. The light was dim. The trees here were older and taller. The ground was covered in soft moss and broken branches. After some time, they found something. A tree had been scratched deeply. The marks were wide and long, 3 strong lines, deeper than any creature could make except one. The Drecker, Ravi, knelt and touched the claw marks. He didn't look afraid. He looked amazed. Then they heard the sound again. The roar, louder than before, closer than before. Lena's heart beat fast. Her hands shook. She grabbed Ravi's arm again. We hide now. But Ravi stood still. His eyes searched the trees. His breath was steady. He raised both hands and took a deep breath. Then, slowly, he walked forward. Ravi, no, Lena whispered. He turned to her and smiled gently. Trust. Lena didn't move. She stood under the tree, watching as he walked toward the sound. Leaves rustled. The forest held its breath. Then the bushes moved. A shadow appeared between the trees. 2 yellow eyes, a dark shape. It stepped out taller than 2 men, with black scales and a tail like a whip. Its mouth open, showing rows of sharp teeth. It was the Drecker. Lena covered her mouth with her hands. Ravi stood still. The Drecker growled deeply, but it didn't charge. It tilted its head. Ravi slowly sat down on the ground. He didn't move. He made a soft, low sound with his voice. It was not words, just a quiet hum, a sound of calm. The Drecker took 1 slow step forward. Lena's heart stopped. The Drecker stood just a few steps away from Ravi. Its dark eyes stared at him. Its nose moved, smelling the air. Its claws pressed into the ground. Its tail slowly moved from side to side. Lena hid behind a thick tree. She couldn't breathe properly. Her hands shook. Her heart beat so fast she thought it might jump out of her chest. She wanted to scream, to run, or to pull Ravi away, but she stayed still. Ravi did not move. He sat on the soft ground, legs crossed, hands on his knees. His face was calm. His eyes didn't show fear. He just watched the creature with gentle interest. The Drecker let out a low growl. Its chest rose and fell with deep breaths. Its eyes didn't leave the human. Then Ravi did something no one had ever done before. He slowly took something out of his pack. It was a round fruit he had picked earlier, a sweet, yellow fruit that even the forest animals liked. He placed it on the ground in front of him and pushed it slightly forward. The Drecker blinked. It didn't move for a while. The forest remained silent. Then, slowly, the great beast stepped forward. 1 step, then another. Its sharp claws dug into the ground, but it didn't attack. It reached the fruit, sniffed it, and gave a soft snort. It took the fruit in its mouth and stepped back. Lena couldn't believe her eyes. The Drecker chewed the fruit, then looked at Ravi again. Ravi smiled softly. The beast gave a low sound. It wasn't a growl. It was different, like a rumble of interest. Then, just as slowly as it had arrived, the Drecker turned and walked back into the trees. Its tail brushed leaves behind it as it disappeared into the shadows. Silence returned. Lena stepped out from behind the tree, still shaking. It didn't eat you, she whispered. Ravi stood up and turned to her. He smiled gently. No. Lena walked up to him and stared at the empty space where the Drecker had stood. Why didn't it attack? Ravi looked at the spot too. I don't know for sure, he said slowly, but I think it was curious, not angry. Lena sat on a fallen log. You gave it food. Yes, Ravi nodded. In my world, animals trust when you offer food. They see you mean no harm. Lena looked at him with wide eyes. No one has ever done this. Everyone runs from it. Maybe that's why it attacks, Ravi said gently. Because everyone fears it. Lena thought about that. It was strange, but maybe it was true. Maybe the Drekker was not born angry. Maybe it just learned to be feared. They walked back to the village before nightfall. Ravi didn't speak much, and neither did Lena. She kept thinking about what she had seen. Her mind was full of questions. Could it be that a human someone, not even from this world, understood the Drekker better than her people? When they reached the edge of the village, Lena stopped. "You cannot tell the elders," she said. Ravi looked confused. "Why, they will think you are lying," she said. "Or worse, they will try to hunt the Drekker again." "But I didn't hurt it," Ravi replied. "They won't care," Lena said sadly. "They are afraid." Ravi nodded slowly. "Then we keep it secret," she agreed. For now, no one needed to know. Over the next few days, Ravi stayed in the village. He helped clean the gardens, fix broken tools, and watch the stars with the children. He was kind to everyone. Slowly, the Villari people began to like him, even. Those who were unsure at first now smiled when he passed. But Lena noticed something else too. The forest had changed. There were no more warning roars at night. No trees smashed down. No lost travelers or broken paths. It was quiet, but not in a scary way. It felt peaceful. The elders said it was a lucky week. Maybe the Drekker has gone far away. They said, but Lena knew the truth. The Drekker was still there. Just watching. One morning, Ravi woke up early and asked Lena to take him back to the Drekker's land. "You want to go again?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "I want to understand more." Lena looked unsure. "It might not come again." "That's okay," Ravi smiled. "I just want to be near." So they went back, carrying some fruit and dry seeds. They sat near a small stream, waiting. Hours passed. Birds sang above them. Insects flew near the water. But no sound came from the trees. Then, just as the sun began to fall, a shadow appeared again. The Drekker stepped out slowly. It didn't growl this time. It looked at Ravi and came closer than before. Lena held her breath. Ravi didn't move. The Drekker sniffed the food in his hand, took it gently, and sat down across from him. Its giant body made no loud sound. Its breathing was slow and calm. Then something even more strange happened. Ravi began to hum, a soft, deep hum from his throat, a sound like comfort, like peace. The Drekker closed its eyes for a moment. Lena felt something she never felt before. She wasn't afraid anymore. When they returned to the village again, Ravi drew pictures of the Drekker and showed them to Lena in private. He pointed to the heart. "Not enemy," he said, "just alone." Lena looked at the picture and whispered, "Maybe it was waiting for someone like you." The days passed quietly in the Villari village. The sky stayed bright, and the forest remained calm. The villagers smiled more. The air felt lighter. Even the elders noticed the peace. They said it was a gift from the stars. But only Lena and Ravi knew the truth. It was not the stars. It was the Drekker. The wild predator was no longer hunting. It stayed near the edge of the forest but did not attack. No trees were broken. No animals ran in fear. It was still there, just watching and waiting. Lena and Ravi continued their visits to the forest every 2 or 3 days. They went to the same stream and sat in silence. They brought fruit and seeds. They hummed softly. And every time the Drekker came. At first, it stayed far. Then it came closer. Now, it sometimes sat beside them, calm and quiet. Lena was still amazed. She had lived in fear of the Drekker since childhood. Every child was told the same stories, that it was a monster, a hunter, a beast that could never be tamed. But Ravi never believed that. He never saw the Drekker as a monster. He only saw a lonely creature. One morning, while walking through the village, Ravi saw a group of hunters talking to the elders. They pointed toward the forest and looked worried. Lena watched too. "They say something large is moving near the village," she whispered. They found broken branches and deep footprints. Ravi frowned. It didn't attack. "Why are they worried?" "They don't know it is the Drekker," Lena said. "They only see the signs." Ravi felt troubled. "If they find it, they will try to fight it." Lena nodded. "Yes, That is what they always do. Ravi looked down. Then I must speak to them. Lena grabbed his arm. They won't understand. They don't know the Drekker like you do. I want to try, he said calmly. They trust you. Will you come with me? Lena looked into his eyes. They were full of peace. She slowly nodded. Yes. Later that day, Ravi and Lena stood before the village elders. The hunters sat nearby, holding their sharp tools. All eyes were on the human. Ravi spoke slowly. His words were simple. The creature in the forest is not our enemy. The elders looked at one another. One of them, an old Velari named Toril, leaned forward. You speak of the Drekker. Ravi nodded. Yes. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some people looked shocked. Others looked afraid. Toril narrowed his eyes. And how do you know this? Ravi pointed to his heart. Because I have seen it. I have sat near it. I have fed it. I have lived. Gasps filled the air. A hunter stood up. That is not possible. No one meets the Drekker and survives. Lena stepped forward. He speaks the truth. Toril looked at her. You were there. Yes, she said. I saw it. The Drekker came close. It did not attack. It listened. It stayed calm. It took food and left. Another elder asked, why would it act this way? Because. Ravi answered, it was never truly angry. It was only alone. Only feared. The room grew silent. But then, one hunter spoke loudly. It may act gentle now, but it will not stay that way forever. When it gets hungry, it will turn wild again. Some nodded in agreement. Toril raised his hand. Enough, he said. We will not make quick decisions. He looked at Ravi. You say the Drekker is calm now. Then let us wait. If it stays peaceful, we do nothing. But if it comes closer, if there is danger, we will protect the village. Ravi nodded. That is fair. But in his heart, he knew the Drekker was changing. It was not just calm, it was learning. Understanding. That night, something strange happened. A loud howl echoed through the forest. It was not the Drekker's roar. It was a different sound, higher, sharper. Lena woke from her sleep and ran outside. Ravi was already standing near the trees. From the forest, many small creatures ran. Birds, deer-like animals, and crawling things. They were escaping from something. Ravi listened. Then he saw it. A group of wild beasts, four-legged creatures, with sharp horns, were running toward the village. They had been driven out of their land by the storm from the northern mountains. Hungry and lost, they were heading for the village food storages. The hunters grabbed their weapons. The elders shouted orders. People screamed and ran to their shelters. But before the beasts reached the village, another sound broke through the night. The roar of the drive, it came like thunder. Deep, loud, powerful. The wild beasts stopped. They turned their heads, confused. And then the Drekker appeared. It stepped out from the shadows, strong and tall. Its eyes glowed, and its body moved with silent power. It stood between the wild beasts and the village. The beast growled. The Drekker growled louder. For a moment, everything stopped. Then the beasts backed away. One by one, they turned and ran back into the forest. The Drekker stood still, watching until they were gone. Then it turned and looked at the village. Everyone was quiet. No one moved. Ravi walked forward slowly. The Drekker saw him and gave a soft sound, a sound that no one had ever heard from it before. It was not a roar. It was something closer to a greeting. Ravi raised his hand and bowed his head. Thank you, he said. The Drekker stepped back into the forest, leaving behind only peace. The village remained silent. Then Toril said in a soft voice, the human was right. No one argued. The morning after the night of the wild beasts, the village was calm. The sky was clear and blue, and the sun warmed the fields and trees. People moved slowly, still thinking about what had happened. They had seen something new, the power of the Drekker, but also its kindness. Lena walked through the village, watching the faces of her people. Some smiled softly. Others talked quietly in small groups. Many looked at Ravi with respect. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a part of their story. Ravi sat near the big tree at the center of the village. He was drawing pictures in the dirt with a stick. Animals gathered nearby, not afraid of him. Even small birds came close and chirped softly. Lena sat beside him. "The village is different now," she said. Ravi looked up and smiled. "Yes?" "The Drekker is different too." She nodded. "You have changed it." Ravi shook his head. "I only helped." The Drekker changed because it felt safe. Lena watched him quietly. She thought about the times they had spent in the forest, how Ravi never rushed, how he always showed respect, how the Drekker listened to him. She said softly, "Will it come back?" "I hope so," Ravi answered. "I want to learn more." Lena smiled. "I want to help too." Over the next days, Ravi and Lena began to explore the forest together. They moved slowly, watching the plants and animals. They talked with the villagers, sharing small lessons. Ravi taught them how to listen to the sounds of the forest, how to move gently, and how to offer food without fear. Some villagers were afraid at first. They remembered old stories of danger, but they saw the changes. They saw the calm in the forest. They saw how the Drekker did not come near the village to hurt, but to watch and protect. One afternoon, a group of young Villari asked Ravi to teach them. Lena smiled at the children. "They want to learn from you," she said. Ravi laughed softly. "I learned from them too." Together, they showed the children how to make soft sounds that calmed the birds and how to move quietly, so animals would not run away. They taught them how to watch and wait with patience. The children loved it. They laughed when birds landed near their heads. They smiled when small animals came close. They began to believe that the forest was a friend, not a place to fear. One day, while exploring, Ravi found a large cave hidden behind thick vines. He called Lena over. "Look," he said, "maybe the Drekker's home." Lena felt a cold shiver. The cave was dark and deep. It smelled of earth and stone. "Are you sure we should go?" she asked. Ravi smiled. "I want to try, but we will be careful." They entered the cave slowly. Their steps made soft echoes. The walls were cool and wet. Shadows moved in the light of their small torches. After walking a short distance, they saw marks on the wall, deep scratches, and old drawings. The drawings showed a creature like the Drekker, but larger and stronger. It looked like a protector. Lena touched the wall carefully. "This is old," she said. "Maybe the Drekker's family lived here long ago." Ravi nodded. "Maybe. The Drekker is part of this land." They sat near the cave entrance and waited. After a while, a sound came from the forest, the soft steps of the drive. Dotted appeared at the cave mouth, looking at them. Its eyes were calm. It took a few steps forward, then sat down nearby. Lena and Ravi stayed quiet. They didn't move. They just watched. The Drekker looked at them with gentle eyes for a long time. They stayed like that, three beings from different worlds, sharing a silent moment of trust. Back in the village, the elders began to ask questions. "How can we live with the Drekker?" One elder asked. Toro replied, "We must learn to understand it. It is part of our home." Ravi said, "The Drekker is not a monster. It wants peace." The villagers began to change their minds. They saw that fear was not the only way. They saw that kindness could build bridges. One day, the village held a gathering. Ravi spoke to the people. "If we work together, the forest will be safe. The Drekker will protect us, and we will protect the forest." Lena stood beside him, proud and hopeful. The villagers cheered softly. They knew that this was a new beginning. That evening, Ravi and Lena sat outside their homes. The sky was full of stars. Lena asked, "Do you miss your world?" Ravi smiled. "Sometimes, but here, I feel needed. I feel home." Lena looked at him. "You have changed my world." He looked at her. "And you have changed mine." They smiled and looked up at the stars. The forest was quiet, but alive. The Drekker's eyes watched from the shadows, calm and watchful. Together, they were creating a new story, one of friendship, trust, and hope. The forest was alive with the sounds of birds and wind. The sun shone softly through the tall trees. But beneath the calm, something was changing. Lena and Ravi had spent many days learning from the forest and from the Drekker. Their bond had grown strong. The villagers were beginning to trust the great beast too, but some still worried. One morning, as the village began to stir, a messenger arrived from a distant part of Zera. The messenger was a young Velari named Mira, who carried urgent news. The northern mountains, Mira said breathlessly, there's a great storm coming. It will push wild beasts toward us. Lena and Ravi looked at each other. This was not good news. Ravi stood and said, we must prepare the village. The Drekker may be our protector again. Lena nodded. We should warn the elders. At the village meeting place, Lena and Ravi shared the news. The elders listened carefully. Toril spoke. If the storm brings beasts, we must be ready. But we cannot fight alone, Ravi added. The Drekker knows the forest better than any of us. We must work with it. Some villagers nodded. Others still looked worried. We will send hunters to guard the village, Toril decided. But we will also watch the forest. That night, Ravi and Lena went into the forest. The trees were dark, and the air was cool. They followed the path they knew, the path the Drekker often walked. Suddenly, they heard movement nearby. They stopped and listened. Leaves rustled. Branches cracked. Out of the shadows came a large creature. It was not the Drekker. It was a wild beast with sharp horns and long teeth. It looked hungry and scared. Lena stepped back slowly. The beast growled softly, then stopped. It looked tired and weak. Ravi reached into his pack and took out some dried fruit. He stepped forward carefully and offered it. The beast sniffed, then ate. Lena watched in surprise. Ravi had done it again. He was calm and kind even to the wildest creatures. The beast rested its head near Ravi's feet. It was still dangerous, but it was also tired and alone. Later, they reached the place where the Drekker waited. The great beast appeared from the trees. It looked strong and proud. Ravi and Lena watched as the Drekker approached the wild beast. Instead of growling or attacking, the Drekker lowered its head. The wild beast stood quietly. Then the Drekker turned and looked at Ravi. Ravi stepped forward and spoke softly. We can all live together. The Drekker made a low sound almost like a growl, but softer. It was as if it agreed. Back in the village, the storm arrived. The wind howled. The rain poured. Trees bent under the power of the storm. Wild beasts came running toward the village, driven by fear and hunger. The hunters prepared to defend their home, but the Drekker stood in front of the village, its body strong and wide. When the wild beasts came near, the Drekker roared loudly, but this time, it was not a roar of anger. It was a roar of warning. The wild beasts stopped. The Drekker's eyes shone bright in the storm. Then, one by one, the wild beasts turned and ran back into the forest. The village was safe after the storm passed. The village came together. They thanked the Drekker and Ravi. Toril said, the Drekker is not only a beast, it is our guardian. Ravi smiled and said, it always wanted to be. Lena looked at the Drekker, then at the villagers. We are all connected. The forest, the beasts, and us. The villagers began to understand. The fear was gone. It was replaced by hope. That night, as the stars shone bright, Ravi sat with Lena near the big tree. Do you think the village will be safe now? Lena asked. Ravi looked up at the stars. With the Drekker and us working together, I believe. So, Lena smiled. You have brought a new beginning to Zera. Ravi nodded. We all have a role. Even the fiercest beast can be a friend. They sat quietly, watching the forest breathe under the night sky. The morning sun rose slowly over the village of the Velari. Its golden light touched the trees, the soft grass, and the small homes built with care and love. The forest seemed alive, calm, and peaceful. A new day had begun, a day different from any other before. Lena stepped outside her home and looked toward the edge of the forest. There, just where the trees met the open land, stood the Drekker. It was quiet, watching the village with its deep yellow eyes. It was no longer a monster to fear. It was a guardian, a friend. Ravi stood beside Lena. They both watched the Drekker in silence. The years had passed since the day Ravi first arrived in the strange world of Zera. Much had changed. The villagers now lived without fear. They had learned to respect the forest and its creatures. Children played near the trees. and the elders smiled more often. The wild beasts no longer threatened their homes. The Drekker was the reason. That day, the village held a special gathering. People from nearby villages came to see the peace that had come to this once wild land. They had heard stories of the human who tamed the fiercest predator and the alien. Girl who believed in him, Ravi and Lena stood before the crowd. Toril, the wise elder, spoke first. "This is a new time for our world," Toril said. "A time when fear is replaced with trust. A time when we can live together, Valari, humans." And the creatures of the forest, the crowd cheered softly. The young and old looked hopeful. Ravi stepped forward. "I came from far away, not knowing this world. But I learned that strength is not in fighting, but in understanding." Lena smiled proudly. "And I learned that sometimes the greatest courage is to believe in peace." After the gathering, Ravi and Lena walked toward the forest. The Drekker waited for them, calm and steady. Ravi reached into his bag and pulled out some fruit. He offered it to the Drekker, who took it gently. Lena noticed how the great beast's eyes softened. The three of them walked deeper into the forest, where the trees grew tall and the light was soft. There, in a quiet clearing, Ravi knelt and spoke softly. "This is our home now. We protect it, and it protects us." Lena sat beside him, together. The Drekker lay down, its head resting on its paws. It was peaceful. Days turned into weeks. The bond between the village and the forest grew stronger. The Valari learned to listen to the whispers of the trees and the songs of the birds. They learned to move gently and live in harmony. Ravi taught the children how to care for the land and its creatures. He told stories of his world, of friendship and courage. Lena helped the elders find ways to protect the village without fear. She worked with the hunters, teaching them patience and respect. The Drekker often visited the village, sitting quietly near the edge, watching over everyone. The children would sometimes run to it, laughing and calling its name. The great beast never moved quickly or angrily. It was calm. It was family. One evening, as the sun set in colors of orange and pink, Ravi and Lena sat near the big tree in the village center. The stars began to appear, shining bright in the clear sky. Lena looked at Ravi. "Do you miss your world?" Ravi smiled softly. "Sometimes, but here I have found something more: friends, family, and peace." Lena nodded. "I'm glad you came here." Ravi took her hand gently. "And I'm glad I met you." They sat quietly, watching the stars together. Years passed. The story of the human and the alien girl spread across the lands. It became a story of hope, a story that showed even the fiercest beast can be tamed with kindness and trust. The village grew stronger. The forest grew greener. The animals thrived. And the Drekker, once feared, became a symbol of harmony. Lena, Ravi, and the Drekker had changed their world forever.